Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. The Yankees take 2 of 3 in Toronto against the Blue Jays in what was another series where the Yankees have found ways to win late. Or really, the entire road trip. They sweep the Guardians in Cleveland and, lose Friday night, which I kind of expected. Maybe not the way it happened. The Yankees actually were able to eventually get to Trey Savage, but Ryan Weathers was really bad. And that's been a bit of a theme. But the Yankees in games 2 and 3 get late home runs in the 9th inning in both games. Tie games, Paul Goldschmidt with the big home run in game 2, and in game 3, Ben Rice. And then Caballero with a tack-on home run to give a little bit more breathing room. But this was a big series. And look, both teams are very shorthanded. Let's make that entirely clear. In pretty major ways. And even more so, where going in, there was a lot of, players on the shelf. But Trent Grisham, he sustains a right hamstring strain in the first game. So Jasson Domínguez is called up. He actually homers in game 2, which we'll discuss. And now he will probably get some pretty regular run in right field. He had not played right field in his major league career, but now has. And, got a little bit of playing time in the minors. And, his call-up was expedited. But my overall point as far as the injuries go, Trent Grisham, who has been red hot. I've been critical of his defense, and that's one thing, but his offense has really been very good for well over a month, and specifically the last few weeks. So, look, I would be totally shocked if it's a 10-day minimum IL stint, but it's a hamstring. Now, I don't know that he'll be out for an extended period of time. It seems like maybe they avoided something bad, but I think it was the right move. Especially, look, he's their center fielder. I mean, I kind of wish that he weren't. I kind of wish that he, was more of a corner outfielder or whatever. That's a whole nother conversation. But Trent Grisham, with his role on the team, last year they kind of, he also ironically got hurt in Toronto last year. This was as a runner on the bases. Last year was in the outfield. And he avoided the IL, but I feel like, I don't know, it didn't necessarily affect him offensively, but I felt like it definitely did defensively. So there's that. For Toronto, Vlad Guerrero Jr., he was out for games 2 and 3, and that's a huge loss for them. Despite the fact that he's only had 3 home runs this year, he's still Vlad Guerrero. He's still the biggest threat in their lineup. And you almost saw him as a pinch hitter in game 3. But even in that situation, he wouldn't have even been the tying run, but that's here nor there. So I think if you're I don't think one side can say, oh, well, we're dealing with this. Both are. And that was kind of on display. And maybe that does play a role in the result here. But very pleased with the Yankees finding a way to take 2 of 3 in a place that was absolutely a total house of horrors for the New York Yankees. I mean, going 1-8 there last year. I don't care what Toronto's record is this year. I think this is a really good thing in terms of you don't want to see the Blue Jays come playoff time. You just don't. And they are very well, despite the fact that they're 4 games under 500, there's so much season to go, and those last American League wildcard spots are very much up for grabs. So if you can help in any way of, increase the chances of the Blue Jays not making it, that's a good thing. But just for yourself, to be able to lose the first game, bounce back, and win a couple of close games, and to avoid extra innings. I mean, I know the Yankees won game 1 against Cleveland extra innings, but road extra innings has been really tough, especially for the Yankees. So just insanely clutch to find a way to get it done in the top of the 9th. And that's kind of been a thing for them. They've really done well. I think there's a stat where they've won maybe 7 games where they've, taken the lead in the 9th inning or beyond, and they've only won 1 extra inning game. So most of that damage, specifically in the 9th, home and away, it feels like. So, and so before we get into the series, where they're at standings wise, a pretty good weekend as well, where the Rays, as I'm recording this, looks as if they'll probably beat the Angels. Not over yet. It's the 8th inning. They're up by 5. Angels have a couple of runners out with no outs. So I'll monitor that, but I'm going to go into the assumption that the Rays will hold on, and if they do, they would be avoiding a sweep. So the Rays have lost the series to the Angels, and so the Yankees are actually in first place. Now, if the Rays hold on to win this game, they're still tied in the loss column, but the Yankees are 43-27, and the Rays would be, if they win, 41-27. So that's pretty good work for the Yankees to have made up that ground as quickly as they have. But it had been a while. I mean, the Yankees had not been in first place for quite some time, and so it's encouraging. A lot of that to do, again, the Rays have kind of hit the skids a little bit lately, but the Yankees, specifically without Judge, and there's been a lot of other injuries as well, as we've chronicled, but they have found a way for the most part to win series, and to do it on the road. And look, Toronto, they had been playing, fairly well at home this year. Not an easy place to play, and the close nature of the wins, I like. Like, that has been a gripe of mine, that the Yankees have, really found ways to lose a lot of the close games. And even still, like, their run differential is a lot better than the record, which tells you, and there were a lot of close losses, but lately it's been turning around a bit. And, like, for example, that's where the run differential could be a little bit misleading. The Yankees win by 5 runs in this last game, but really, that was a down-to-the-wire game. But let's get into this one. Best player and worst series of the series. And yet again, it is Paul Goldschmidt that is the best player of a series, as he had been in the Cleveland one. So just a great road trip. He has been sensational. And what I also want to mention is that Giancarlo Stanton had a setback, which is not all that surprising. It's frustrating, but it means that Paul Goldschmidt is going to be locked into that lineup every game, in essentially a top 4. He's not going to bat lower than 4th, whether it's versus righty or lefty. And give him credit, he has done a lot better lately against righties. That home run I talked about was against Louis Varland, who has arguably been the best. I mean, maybe even, I think it is fair to say, at least in terms of ERA, he has been one of the best relievers in baseball. And so for him to take advantage of a mistake that Varland made and deposit it out for a 2-run homer was huge. And just beyond that, he went 5 for 13 in the series, got a hit each game. And he's up to 295 batting average on the season. The OPS is just shy of 900, 898. He has been sensational, has provided a nice glove at first base. And, the 38-year-old has really been something special. And the Yankees have needed it badly with the amount of injuries that they, have had piled up here. So Paul Goldschmidt, player of the series, among some other candidates that were certainly worthy. I feel pretty good about Goldschmidt here. And then on the flip side, I think an even more obvious one is the worst player of the series, and that is Ryan Weathers. And, that can kind of jump us in to game 1. So Ryan Weathers, the home run ball has really been a problem for him lately. And just in general, the numbers are starting to skyrocket to the point where it is, when Max Fried does return, not sure when that'll be, Ryan Weathers is the obvious candidate to be dropped out of the rotation. He loses to go to 2-5, 4 1/3 innings, 5 hits, 6 runs, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts, and 2 homers. So he's led 15 home runs this season. The ERA's up to 4.36. It's been rough. The last, 4 or 5 starts have not been great for Ryan Weathers, and just too much damage against. Another candidate who also pitched in this game, Jake Bird, would be another one. Weathers to me made sense for the worst player, but Jake Bird not that far behind him. He's just, like, some of the underlying metrics aren't that bad when it comes to Bird, but the fact of the matter is, it seems like he gives up runs way too often. When you try to depend on him to come through, it doesn't typically go the way you want it to. And so, Jake Bird is someone, to me, that's very expendable, a guy that you could send down. Now, I guess there's no rush to do it right now, but when they get more healthy, to me, Bird is got to be a guy that's an odd man out. And that's including, like, a Paul Black. I mean, and that's even including the likes of Paul Blackburn. And, Ryan Yarborough's a lefty, so that's a different conversation. But, hell, everything being equal, even if they had equal options, I'm fine with keeping Paul Black. I'm not even a Paul Blackburn fan, but Jake Bird, it's just, he's a frustrating watch. But anyway, game 1, at this point, Trent Grisham, of course, still, in the lineup. He got hurt in this first game. And it was encouraging. I guess we'll try to kind of move ahead a little bit is that Anthony Volpe did not start games 1 or 2, which is what I was asking for. I only want him, I don't even want him starting at all, really, but have him only start against lefties. And that's what happened. And you know what? He actually had a pretty good game 3. To be fair to him, he had some big hits. And so that was encouraging that, it was Caballero at short in games 1 and 2. Nothing else really stands out in a major way. It's been a bit of a rotation with Rice and Goldschmidt as far as DH first base. Goldschmidt played first in games 1 and 3. Rice played first in game 2, with the other player, of course, being the DH. Spencer Jones was the right fielder in the first game, but now with the Grisham injury, expect to see a good amount of Spencer Jones in center. It seems like they want to leave Bellinger. It seems like the alignment for the most part against righties is probably going to be Bellinger, Jones, Domínguez left to right. And then against lefties, well, we'll see what happens in that situation. I think Bellinger may move to center there, and then it might just be different players in left, right? Depending on the situation. I mean, game 3 happened to be Max Schumann, but I don't know if that's going to be that way in other cases. For the Blue Jays, it was Trey Savage, who the Yankees actually finally did get to. Now, look, it's a little bit different because he had a lead. But Savage, the line, not very good. He gets the win to go to 3-3. 5 innings, 4 hits, 5 runs, 6 walks, and 3 strikeouts for Trey Savage. But it was Ryan Weathers who was on the ropes early, and someone who returned for the Blue Jays really did damage, especially in game 1. The Yankees simply couldn't get Alejandro Kirk out. Alejandro Kirk was 3 for 3 with a walk. He has kind of always been a Yankee killer, and Kirk, but look, like, Kirk returns, but Dalton Varsho, he hit the IL, right? So he's a guy that, has home run power. Been off to a slow start this year, Varsho, but Kirk returns, and in the first inning, it would be a 2-out RBI double for Kirk, who knocks in Ernie Clement, who, by Yankee standards, Clement actually didn't destroy it. He did some things, here and there, but he actually really didn't kill them this weekend when all was said and done. But Kirk gets the RBI double, but then the killer is an Okamoto 2-run shot. Now, he didn't do much in Yankee Stadium in that 4-game set a few weeks back, but certainly did damage here. An impressive, long, high, down-the-line shot to give the Jays a 3-0 lead. So that's where Weathers like, all right, you give the 1 run, fine. And to be fair, that's a play that Grisham, it was hit hard by Kirk, the RBI double, but I was a little bit annoyed that Grisham, I think certain center fielders could have gotten there. I'm not saying it was easy, but anyway, Blue Jays have a 3-0 lead. A missed opportunity for the Yankees in the second. Bases loaded, 1 out, and Escara strikes out, and Grisham pops out. And then at the bottom of the second, a 2-out rally. Weathers hits Andres Jimenez, which is not what you want. And then George Springer, who has been a thorn in the Yankees side for a long time, but especially since last season, he gets a 6th home run of the year. I think half of his home runs this year against the Yankees makes it 5-0 Jays. So you're off to a terrible start if you're Ryan Weathers and the Yankees, but give them some credit. They did fight back just a bit, but were never quite able to get to where they needed to get to. But, Weathers, settles down for a few innings, but he would, give up some runs later on. But anyway, top of the 5th, Escara gets it going, believe it or not. It was the first hit by a Yankee catcher since the end of May. Eventually, Paul Goldschmidt gets a sac fly to make it 5-1, and then Cody Bellinger is able to hit a 2-run homer just over the right field wall, his 10th homer of the season to cut it to 5-3. So, all right, 4 innings to go, down by 2, but then at the bottom of the 5th, a bit of a killer where a leadoff walk by Weathers to George Springer, not what you want, and then Jake Bird comes on, and he doesn't help matters. RBI double for Vlad Guerrero Jr. makes it 6-3, and then RBI single for Alejandro Kirk makes it 7-3. That's what I'm talking about as far as Jake Bird goes. He certainly was another person that was very much in line for worst player of the series, but Weathers, to me, had more of a significant role in this. But yeah, Jake Bird, where you needed to keep things, and Weathers deserves blame for that leadoff walk, but it makes it 7-3 Blue Jays. And the Yankees scored 2 runs back again in the 6th. And it was a big 2-out hit by Trent Grisham. after McMahon and Rosario was a pinch hitter, do not come through with second and third, no out. Mason Fluharty had come on for a savage, but lefty Trent Grisham gets a big 2-run hit. And as he's going to second, as they throw through, Grisham goes to second and he pulls up lame. Safe at second, but he leaves the game immediately. And as we know now, on the IL, hamstring strain, and that's a tough blow. He'll be back, but, I don't think we're going to see him until July. I think that's a fair guess to say that Trent Grisham probably returns somewhere in the month of July, would be my logical guess there. So Max Schumann comes in as a pinch runner. Ben Rice flies out as the tying run. And then bottom of the sixth, it would be Brent Hedrick, who's been sensational. He pitches a scoreless sixth. 7th inning rolls around. A little bit of an opportunity for the Yankees against Braden Fisher, who they would eventually get to in game 3. 2 on, 1 out, and Spencer Jones strikes out. And that's the problem with Spencer Jones, is the strikeouts are just so prevalent with him. And so a missed opportunity there. Caballero infield single. So Ryan McMahon, really, this ended up being the real last good chance. Bases loaded, 2 out, and Ryan McMahon flies out. So it keeps it down to Camilo Doval comes on, gets into a little bit of trouble, but is able to get out of it unscathed. Tyler Rogers, the submariner, with a 1-2-3-8 for the Blue Jays. Fernando Cruz comes on the bottom of the 8th. And kind of gives up somewhat of an unfair run against. It's a 2-out walk to Springer, which she can't do, and that's the bugaboo for Cruz is the walks. But Ernie Clement gets an RBI double down the right field line. Not well played by Max Schumann. Not a great series by Max Schumann, who I've been bullish about. Didn't love what Schumann did, kind of on both sides of the ball. It wasn't overly egregious, but it's a play that Schumann should have been able to not allow a run to score, in my opinion. And so that really takes the wind out of their sails, makes it 8-5 on the Clement RBI double. Then Louis Varland is able to shut it down with a 1-2-3-9. The Blue Jays win 8-5. And it was a result that didn't surprise me, but one that was frustrating nonetheless. And so we go to game 2. And Cam Schlittler was able to get it done for the Yankees in the second game. Schlittler, it wasn't pretty, but hey, 7 innings, 1 run is 7 innings, 1 run. 7 innings, 6 hits, 1 run, 4 walks, and 7 strikeouts. The 4 walks is a lot for Cam. That was his most of the season, but the ERA sits at 1.82. That's what's been impressive about Schlittler is from, except for maybe that Cleveland game, he really has found a way, even when it's not there, to not only not give up runs, but to still give him length. I'm impressed that he was able to get through 7 here. And for Toronto, Kevin Gausman was absolutely fantastic. 7 innings, only 1 hit allowed. That 1 hit was a home run to Jasson Domínguez. 2 walks and 7 strikeouts for Gausman. And at this point, Grisham on the shelf, Domínguez up, Guerrero not in the lineup. And in this game, Spencer Jones starts in center field, Domínguez starts in right, Ben Rice leads off, and Domínguez bats second. So not a lot to speak. This game, again, not a whole lot of offense to speak of. The Blue Jays had a lot of missed chances. That's a big theme in this game. Is if you're a Blue Jay fan, I think game 2, I think hurts specifically just because they were the ones that were pressuring and just couldn't really break through. But they do take the lead in the bottom of the 3rd, and it's Okamoto again. It's his 15th homer of the year. It's his 2nd home run in as many games. Wasn't even that bad of an 0-2 pitch by Cam Schlittler, but it goes down the line and just over the wall to give Toronto a 1-0 lead, but a quick response by Jasson Domínguez. It's his 2nd home run of the year, and it ties it up at 1. So that's good to see. And again, Domínguez, he's going to get a lot of run here. He's going to play almost every game. And so that'll be interesting, especially versus lefties, to see how he fares there. But bottom of the 4th, a sensational play by Jazz Chisholm Jr. after the half inning before. Just a ridiculous challenge by Jazz. We know his challenges are not good, but it was right down. It was not right down the middle, but it had so much play on a 3-0 pitch. He eventually walked. Jazz actually walked a lot this series, which, if I don't get to it, that's with his speed. That is good to see. Because it did come into play in game 3, especially if Jazz can work the walk. That's going to help this team a lot. So I want to give him credit there. And Jazz makes an amazing defensive play on a lineup by Charles McAdoo as the infield was kind of pulled in with second and third one out, and that holds it at 1-1. A big double play by Schlittler in the fifth, turned by Caballero and Chisholm. Just runners on constantly, and some big double plays from Schlittler. He goes 7 deep. A nice play by Charles McAdoo on Jasson Domínguez in the 8th against Tyler Rogers. The Yankees tried to mount a 2-out rally, started by Escara, actually. So maybe Yankee catching actually did better this series in terms of the offense. Ali Sanchez had a couple hits in game 3, so that would be big if they can contribute a little bit. But Domínguez hits the ball hard, but McAdoo makes a nice play, keeps it at 1-1. And then Fernando Cruz, the bottom of the 8th, he walks the bases loaded. And in the middle of this inning, I don't understand why Ernie Clement would bunt. I felt like that was a gift, and to make matters better for the Yankees, he pops up to Ben Rice. So even if it was a successful bunt, I didn't agree with them doing that. I thought that Cruz was, he had, again, 2 straight walks, couldn't really find the zone, and I felt like Clement kind of did them a favor. But anyway, it gets the bases loaded 2 out, and Cruz is able to get McAdoo to pop out in foul territory to keep it at 1-1, and that leads us to the 9th inning, where Louis Varland comes in, and going into this game, he had an ERA below .5, which is insane. But Cody Bellinger with a leadoff single, and then Paul Goldschmidt with the big 2-run homer, his 9th homer of the year, 400-foot shot, gives the Yankees a 3-1 lead. And then David Bednar with a very impressive striking out the side 9th inning. David Bednar's been a lot better lately. The results are there, but this one probably might have been his most impressive. Strikes out Jimenez, Springer, and Lucas. Picks up his 14th save of the season. The Yankees pick up a very big win. But who knows where this could have turned, right? Because you're thinking here, I know I'm thinking, look, Yankees get swept against the Blue Jays. That's a real bad omen, and just for what it means for both teams. And so this was a big turning point in the series. And so now let's go to game 3, the rubber game. Will Warren, it's been not great in terms of him getting deep into games lately. It kind of reminds me a little bit of Clark Schmidt a few years ago, where the good news is he's not allowing that many runs. And that's honestly signs of improvement and growth, because last year, the biggest problem with Will Warren is certain games he would get blown up and he'd be out of the game early and the game would be done. He'd give up, 6 runs in an inning, and that was it. Here, the line is pretty ugly, I'm not going to lie. In terms of the base runners allowed, 4 innings, 8 hits, only 2 runs, 3 walks, and only 1 strikeout. No decision for Warren, 98 pitches in 4 innings. So look, Will Warren is clearly, if we're going to say Ryan Weathers is going to be out of the rotation, Will Warren, when Fried comes back, Will Warren is clearly the number 5, again, which is totally fine. But Patrick Corbin, he had his struggles, but he was able to kind of, as well as Warren, limit the damage. 3 2/3 innings, 7 hits, 2 runs, no walks, and 3 strikeouts for Patrick Corbin. Jasson Domínguez, interestingly enough, bats 3rd against a lefty. I don't know that I would continue to do that moving forward, although to be fair, he had put up some pretty good numbers as a right-handed hitter in the minors in a pretty short sample size this year. The Yankees are the ones that take the lead. In the 2nd inning, it would be an Anthony Volpe RBI single to knock in Max Schumann to make it 1-0, and then Ali Sanchez an RBI double. So that is uncharted sort of territory for the Yankees to get that sort of production from Volpe and a catcher. So you got to take advantage of that when you get it. Yankees take a 2-0 lead. Bottom of the 3rd, some sloppy defense, I would say, where Nathan Lucas, a leadoff single, where Caballero playing second base. Not the best throw. Goldschmidt also probably could have scooped it. Eventually, you get to a spot of runner on 3rd, 2 out, and Okamoto hits a ball down the line. Ahmed Rosario kind of rushes the throw a little offline. Goalie doesn't want to kind of catch his wrist into the running Okamoto. And so it's ruled a hit and an error because he advances to second, makes it 2-1. So again, Warren, was kind of grinding through, but the defense could have maybe helped him out a little bit better that inning. Bottom of the 4th, it would be a little bit of a 2-out rally, so to speak, that leads to a Nathan Lucas RBI single to make it 2-2, and Warren would be done after the 4th inning. Top of the 6th, and mind you, Tim Hill with a scoreless 5th. He's been better lately. Jazz with the leadoff walk as a pinch hitter. He didn't start this game against the lefty. He steals second. Caballero grounds out. We'll get into another time. Caballero, there's always that conversation of Caballero and the umpires as far as the pitch clock and everything. It was for a while, but anyway, Max Schumann, the first of two really not so good jobs by Schumann. With a runner on third, one out, he grounds out to the pitcher, but a good job by Jazz getting into a rundown so Schumann is able to make his way over to second. So he's in scoring position, and then Anthony Volpe with an RBI single. So 2 RBI hits for Volpe, gives the Yanks a 3-2 lead. But then Jake Bird comes on in the 6th and with 1 out, allows a home run to Davis Schneider, who had really been struggling this year. And for Schneider doing it against a righty, just a bad job by Bird. Schneider's second home run of the year ties it up at 3. Let's go to the 7th. Brent Hedrick with a scoreless bout in the 7th inning. Bit of a missed opportunity in the 8th inning where Chisholm walks against the lefty. They bring on Jeff Hoffman. There was a controversial balk call against him after Chisholm had stole second. So Chisholm goes to third on the balk. And Schumann's up. You know, they could have pinch hit, but I kind of understand sticking with Schumann. Jones and McMahon have too much strikeout in them, where Schumann not as much, but what does Schumann do? He strikes out looking after a failed bunt attempt. So again, not a good job by Schumann, and then Volpe strikes out. So the score remains 3-3. Camilo Doval with actually a pretty impressive 8th. So that was big. Keeps it at 3-3. And then the top of the 9th against Braden Fisher, Jones is a pinch hitter, strikes out. Paul Goldschmidt gets an infield single, and just a poor job by Fisher. He should have not thrown the ball. A blind throw to first. It goes past the first baseman, and Goldschmidt goes to second. Ryan McMahon pinch runs for Goldschmidt, and Ben Rice, who, look, by and large, he has cooled off lately, but Ben Rice hits a gigantic full count, 9th inning, 2-run blast, his 19th homer of the year to give the Yankees a 5-3 lead. And then eventually off of Tommy Nance, because they took out Braden Fisher after a few walks, it would be José Caballero with a 3-run homer, his 6th homer of the year, to give the Yankees an 8-3 lead. And then David Bednar, who was already warming up, he got into a little bit of trouble in the 9th, to be fair, but he's able to end it. The Yankees win 8-3. They win the series. They take 2 out of 3 at Rogers Center. And so the Yankees are able to, retake the AL East lead over the Tampa Bay Rays. And just to further confirm as we close up this episode, the Rays are they're 1 out away from beating the Angels. And so the Yankees will have taken 2 of 3 in Toronto, and the Rays will have lost 2 of 3 against the Angels. So now the Yankees will head home for a 6-game homestand against the White Sox and Reds. And the Chicago White Sox have been one of the pleasant surprises in Major League Baseball. They sit at 38-32. I believe technically they have the best record in the American League after the Yankees and Rays. I think they have the 3rd best record in the American League. They're a little bit ahead of by percentage points of the Guardians. So they're pretty much tied with the Guardians for the AL Central lead. But let's discuss the pitching matchups. The first one's a really good one, actually. It's the best one of the series, and it is Davis Martin, who has been one of the best pitchers in the American League, kind of out of nowhere against Garrett Cole. So that one is going to be interesting. I wouldn't, take... Look, the good thing here is with the White Sox, they're a lot better at home. So I'm hoping the Yankees can take advantage of facing the White Sox at Yankee Stadium. But the White Sox are coming off of a series win against the Dodgers, so they're going to be feeling pretty good about themselves. Game 2, a battle of lefties. Anthony Kay against Carlos Rodon. I don't hate that matchup. Rodon pitching against his former team. He came up with the White Sox. And then Game 3 will be Sean Burke, who has struggled lately, but overall okay numbers for the White Sox against Ryan Weathers, who we've spoken about. Obviously, he has not been great of late. So we'll see. Hoping the Yankees can find a way to just win another series. And that's really the name of the game here. And they head home. And a very successful road trip. They go 5-1, sweep Cleveland, and then go to Toronto, a place that was a house of horrors last year. And they are able to take 2 of 3 against the Toronto Blue Jays.